Hello, I'm Mary Murphy, the Superintendent of the Marlborough Public Schools.
And I'm RJ Scazzo, the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
And we are welcoming you all to our second episode of Superintendent's Corner. Thank you for watching. This episode, we wanted to talk about some of our supports that we have in school for the social and emotional needs of our students. And so we brought some experts to come and just have a conversation with us. First I'd like to introduce Karen Rivera. Could you tell us how long you've worked in Marlborough Public Schools and what your role is?
I'm the school adjustment counselor at Kane Elementary School, and I've been working for Marlborough Public Schools for 15 years.
Yeah. And Lindsay Castro?
I am also a school adjustment counselor at the Kane Elementary School, and I think it's been around 8 years that I've been in Marlborough.
And Michelle Smith-Packett?
I am one of the school adjustment counselors at Marlborough High School, and I've worked here for about 10 years. I had filled in 2 years prior for a long-term sub position.
Thank you. Many in the community might not know what a school adjustment counselor does. How would you describe your job? And as I said, this is a conversation, so I don't know who wants to start and who wants to jump in, but please feel free.
Well, if your children come home and say, "Oh, I spoke to the feelings teacher," that's us. We're both feelings teachers. We work with kids to help out manage some emotions and celebrate their accomplishments. We're just there to help out the kids.
We talk about helping them be their best learners throughout the day, and that looks different for everybody. So we just try and figure out what they're going to need to be their best learners. So we do talk about that, and we refer to ourselves as helpers too. So the Felix teachers are the helpers in the school and just help the kids do all sorts of different things, make friends, manage emotions, like Karen said. But you don't refer to yourself as
that would be a little different.
At the high school level, I think our job is to help support the administrators and the guidance counselors. School adjustment counseling kind of is different at each developmental level, right? I know for us, we spend a lot of time talking about healthy ways of coping with stress, healthy ways of coping with friends. There's a lot of at-risk behaviors that adolescents can get into, and it's helpful for them to have a trusted adult at school to talk to about those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine that you do hear from parents pretty often and that they reach out to you for assistance. So can you give us some examples and maybe start at the elementary of why or what a parent might reach out to you about?
Typically, a parent will reach out if they're experiencing some struggles in getting their student ready for school. If the child is not wanting to go to school, that's primarily the calls that I'll get. I also get calls from families that are experiencing some family changes, whether it be divorce, death of a pet, death of a family member, and that kind of stuff.
And we get calls too when families need certain things or need access to things, or if kids are struggling, like Karen said, coming to school or with academic pieces and just looking for guidance around what they can do to support their kids at home.
At the high school, it's predominantly students referring themselves or referring a friend. I think our other biggest referral source are teachers when they notice behavior changes or academic changes. And that's when we introduce ourselves to the students and try and see what the family needs or what that student needs for support. Sometimes we refer out for counseling, or sometimes we refer to the child's or student's pediatrician to see if there's anything else going on so that we can best support the academic and social development of our students.
And we do a lot of that too. And I think for us at the elementary level, sometimes it's, kids coming to school for the first time, and we might be the first people that are sharing with parents that, their child might need to see their pediatrician to follow up on some of these things too. So there's a lot of back and forth with parents and helping support kind of those conversations and those pieces, especially if it's a kid who might be referred for special ed or something like that. And the parents, it's their first experience in public school, so they don't know what that stuff. So helping support through all that.
I think it's hard to nail down what we do as school adjustment counselors because it's so varied. Because we could be working with students that have significant learning disabilities and they could be having anxiety or be frustrated with how hard they have to work. We could be working with students who are learning English as a second language and any of the adjustment issues they have coming to a new school, speaking a different language. There are just so many varied reasons that we would be involved in supporting students.
Great.
What have each of you seen recently as the biggest concerns for students? Has there been any change after the shutdown and returning to school?
I think at the elementary level, definitely play skills. And play is so important to learning how to manage your own behavior. And so kids just, our kindergarten kids right now, they've never played in group settings probably because of the pandemic and things like that. So I would definitely say kids' play skills have really, and it's bringing them outside to recess and being in large groups of kids is new. And so that's definitely been a big challenge for them, I would say. And just family stressors are still a big thing that are, when parents are stressed, it shows up on the kids. And so I think that's still been challenging, at least at our level.
I think at the high school level, I think some students have forgotten what the routines and traditions are of a high school. And I think the isolation hasn't helped them with their social skills either. I think we've been really struggling helping kids identify bullying or identifying how to be a good friend, respecting adults. We're trying really hard to help them re-enter and feel comfortable, but we've seen a large jump in numbers around anxiety, avoidance behaviors, depression, isolation. It's been a challenge.
Are there any strategies that you found helpful to get the kids to overcome that challenge and maybe become a little bit more comfortable in the school setting quickly, given the circumstances we've all gone through?
We have a Kirby's Corner at Kane School, which is a safe place for children to take a break, regroup. There's a lot of mindfulness that takes place in that space. And just working through the anxiety, working through what the child is experiencing that's challenging to them. And sometimes it just takes a little listening and a little pat on the back, and they're ready to get back to class and learn.
I mean, I think that, just listening, like Karen said, and really, working with parents and making sure that we're all on the same page and doing the same things is really helpful for the kids too. And clear expectations and regular routines has really been helpful for getting the kids back. Just making sure that we're all doing the same thing consistently for the kids.
I think for guidance counselors and school adjustment counselors and administrators alike, dealing with 9th grade students is a little bit different than dealing with 12th grade students. For us, helping 9th graders problem solve, set goals, self-advocate in an appropriate way has been, I think, our best strategy working with them. I think the other thing is we are starting for the first time, we're teaching signs of suicide to our 9th grade to try and assess the level of depression and see if there's any interventions we can do for the whole school, as well as find very specific students that are at risk and refer them out for community services. As school adjustment counselors last year, we went into every 9th and 10th grade health class once to teach a stress management lesson with coping skills and gave out manipulatives and really described the role of the support people within the high school, really encouraging kids to self-advocate. If you're having a problem, reach out to a trusted adult because we wouldn't know otherwise.
And as far as teachers and the supports that they're providing in the classroom may be a little less traditional than years past. There might be more focus on social emotional learning and the curriculum. So starting at the elementary, what are teachers doing that's maybe a little different when it comes to supporting social emotional needs?
Well, teachers are holding their SEL time blocks using curriculum. And then if they need a little extra, Lindsay typically goes into the classroom and runs whole group lessons. And I'll just run the smaller groups for lunch bunch.
And I think the teachers, a lot of the teachers have calm down spots in the back of the classroom where kids can go take breaks, regroup without having to without missing being in the classroom or anything like that. And I think teachers are really cognizant that some of the kids' learning is different and so, drawing at your desk is okay and all of those things. And everybody just gets what they need. And it might not be the same across the classroom, but, I think the teachers have been really flexible in recognizing that too.
It's great that you partner with the teachers and you go into the classrooms or you take the kids for a lunch session. How about at the high school?
There's a lot of different interventions that we're trying. We're team teaching 9th grade and 10th grade, so that makes it so that the core teachers can work together, identifying students who are at need. And each of those teams has a identified school adjustment counselor and guidance counselor that goes to those meetings. So we're connected right away. And then those students that of concern are brought to our house meetings. There's an administrator for grades 9 and 11 and an administrator for 10 and 12. And we meet regularly. I think it's once every 2 weeks to talk about students who are in academic or social need. And then we have a student support team where students who aren't meeting certain standards academically or socially are put through that process where we get consultation from a multidisciplinary team to see what information we can gather and interventions we can provide that student. We are also in the process of building different programs at the high school. I believe our therapeutic learning center is being restructured and reorganized. We also have the Bridge program for students who have been out long-term due to hospitalization or long-term absences. And that's a very supportive place for students to come back and make up their work and learn skills to reintegrate into classes.
And at the elementary level, we have weekly meetings with the administrators to talk about kids that might be at risk or that, things might be coming up and things like that. So we have a similar system at the elementary level too. And we have consult time where teachers can sign up and come and meet with us in the school psych and, just bounce ideas off of each other and make sure that everyone's feeling supported. So we have the similar systems.
Thank you.
And we're hoping that some parents will be watching this. So I'm wondering if you have any advice on ways that parents can support their students, their children at home, and potentially also, I'm gonna combine a couple of questions. If they're looking for resources outside of the schools to help them in that support. Any ideas with either one?
I mean, I think that for us at the elementary level, making sure your kids get a good night rest and that they are that your morning routine is pretty consistent so that they can get out the door in a pretty consistent way and make it to school is huge. I think being involved in the school is great. The more parents we have the book fair this week at Kane, so it's been great to have parents back in the buildings, volunteering at the book fair, doing all that stuff again. And I think the more the kids see other adults in the school, the more comfortable it becomes and more like a community. And so I think that those are some great ways to help support and make sure that things are going well. And I think it's reaching out and it's communication and collaborate with the schools and just know that we're just trying to help and do the best that we can too. So just reach out, and if you if you're worried about something, just call us and let us know what's going on so we can help support. And I think there's lots of different resources, but did you want to share a little bit too?
So I think parents at the high school level, if they're showing some interest in what their student's learning, that's always helpful. Encouraging daily attendance, even when that's hard and the student is sleepy. Encouraging a good night's rest is also really important. At the high school level, we try really hard to encourage students to join clubs or sports teams or get a part-time job. Ways that they can learn to be part of our community are really important. And I think if parents are concerned about their student, if they notice any behavior changes, it's always good to check with your pediatrician, reach out to the school nurse, reach out to the guidance counselor or school adjustment counselor for your student. At the high school level, we have a student and parents tab and an easy place for students or parents to find information is there. We have a resource document with a lot of community resources on that. There's study guides, ways to get homework done, and there's lots of good resources there. There's a social emotional learning website with coping strategies and coloring pages. There's resources if you look for them.
Thank you.
I was happy to hear you say that you promote the extracurricular or the sports. It was crucial to me to have some incentive and a little extra motivation to get through school when I was at that age, and I wanted to stay on the team and I wanted to be part of that. So that gave me a little extra motivation when I was that age.
I think as an adolescent, belongingness is really important, and we're trying to create that level of community within the high school.
Yeah, that's great.
It seemed, with the three of your skills and all that you offer to the students, it's hard to envision a student that at times needs more than what you provide on a daily basis. But there are times that either a student or a family needs more services. What happens then? What does that referral process look like? Or who do you go to?
So if we can't figure out or help out the family, and we realize that this family will need extra support and extra time to complete, referrals, we'll reach out to our, we reach out to Kayla.
Yeah.
I forget her title.
And Raphael.
And Raphael, wraparound service provider. And we put in a referral in, and they will assess it, and they may refer out to another community resource. So they'll follow through with that.
And that can be things from the need for like fuel assistance, or like getting an application for insurance completed, or helping getting holiday assistance. Like it could be a whole wide range of things for wraparound.
I think it's amazing that it's like we all know everything that they do, but like the title is not important. It's that we know who to call, and we know that the level of service is extraordinary. And we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have the three of you and your whole department and your whole team. Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, just that you guys seem so thoughtful in everything that you do, and that you're there for kids. And I'm sure that your day is very hectic with phone calls and responding to crisis and providing services. So I just think it's remarkable what you do on a daily basis, and we're really grateful for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing with the community today, every day, everything that you do. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a short break and be back shortly. Thank you. Hi, and we're back. For this segment, we are here with Kayla Flaherty Dawson, who is our wraparound service provider. So can you tell us how long you've worked for MPS in your current role?
Yeah, so I have worked for MPS for just over a year now as a bilingual wraparound services coordinator.
And you're bilingual. What other language do you speak?
Spanish.
Spanish, okay. And many in the community might not know what the term wraparound service provider is. I'm sure many people in the schools might need help with that as well. How would you describe your job?
Yeah, so basically my job is to help students and families connect with supports and resources in the community to help them be successful in school. So working with families to kind of get their basic needs met and help connect them to any services that they might need. And then also I work with the school adjustment counselors and other school staff to make sure that they know about different community resources available to families, and also kind of developing partnerships with community organizations to best support our students as well.
Earlier, we were talking to some of the school adjustment counselors, and they were describing their roles. You just said that you reach out more to like the community, but can you give us a couple of examples of that?
Yeah, so I work a lot with advocates, for example, helping get students mental health services. I spend a lot of time talking to their intake director over there. We also have worked with Healthcare for All Massachusetts, which is an organization that helps make sure families and people in Massachusetts have access to healthcare, to help families know about health insurance options that they have here in Massachusetts, like Mass Health. Over the holidays, around the holidays, we connected with Toys for Tots and the Marlborough Rotary Club to make sure that our students had holiday gifts.
Very busy.
Thanks so much for being here with us, Kayla. We appreciate it. So I'm wondering a little bit about the referral process. We have a lot of students in Marlborough Public Schools. So how does a student or family receive wraparound services from the school district?
Yes, so typically what happens is that somebody in that student's school, maybe a teacher, maybe the adjustment counselor, somebody who is kind of working more closely with the student and family might identify a need, whether that's something that the child's having trouble with in school or the family calls and says, hey, we're concerned about this. If that person working with the child who's identifying that need isn't the school adjustment counselor, that person would then kind of talk with the school adjustment counselor, and depending on kind of the level of need, then the school adjustment counselor would reach out to us at Wraparound and we could get involved.
Great. And from what I've heard, you provide a lot of different supports to families and students. So we want to make sure that the community hears about those different types of supports that wraparound service providers can provide families. So can you give us some examples of ways that you help support students and families?
Yeah, so last year, kind of our top 3 things that we helped families with were help accessing medical providers, so whether that be pediatricians or primary care doctors, dentists, eye doctors, things like that. That was our number 1 kind of need that we saw that we helped with. And then helping students access mental health care. And then the third one was helping students access health insurance. So a lot of healthcare related needs is what we're seeing. But we also do help families get like food and clothing if they need it. And everything's really individualized to the needs of the family. So kind of any gap that's there, we can kind of help try to fill that.
That's great.
Since we're just talking here, one of the things that I noticed when seeing some of the things that you would have been doing in the last year was that it doesn't seem that your job occurs during the regular school day exclusively. Like, I know that you have reached out and scheduled a lot of things at night and different times. How do you reach out to families or advertise those events that, like the healthcare sign up workshops? So those activities that you've done with babysitting and everything else at times, right? Yeah. How do families learn about those?
Yes, that's a great question. So we kind of honed in on that process a little bit with some trial and error last year. We, as you mentioned, our hours sometimes go outside of the school day because that's when families are available. And in terms of kind of advertising for those events, we've created flyers and distributed those to all the schools so that staff in the schools can get those out to families. But then we also have sent out emails through Aspen. We can pull up like primary language and send the flyers in the correct language that the family needs. And so that, I think, has been pretty successful in terms of making sure that we kind of catch everybody between the things going out to the schools and the emails going to parents.
Also, when we started, you had mentioned that you are bilingual and you speak Spanish. What happens if there's a Portuguese speaking family as well?
So we also have Rafael, who's our other wraparound provider, and he speaks Portuguese.
Okay.
So
all right. So
those families go to him.
yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
What have you seen recently as the biggest concern for our students?
I mean, access to healthcare and mental health care, I think, continues to be a pretty big concern. And there's also just kind of a coinciding lack of mental health care providers kind of nationwide. And so that's definitely something I feel like we're seeing is that there's a lot of need for mental health. And there are services, but there's a lot of wait lists as well.
You had mentioned before your partnership that you do a lot of work with advocates, and you've been trying to, I know that at times even having that partnership access or be able to service some students when needed in school is something that you help?
Yeah. So there's a grant program that Advocates has to provide some counseling in the school because, as you can imagine, that 3 p.m. and later block of time where every student who's in school and needs counseling is trying to get an appointment is tough. They do have counselors who are able to come into the schools and meet with students during the day, during like non-academic periods. And so I kind of help coordinate that piece a bit as well.
Are there any specific locations in the city where parents can go to access resources that you've described?
Yeah, so the food pantry that's run by United Way, the Marlborough Community Cupboard that's just down the road on Main Street, is a great place for families to go. And the SMOC has a family resource center that's housed right in the same building where they can help families with a variety of needs and apply for benefits and things like that. So that is one place where families can kind of, a little bit of a one-stop shop where families could go. For families that can get there, in Framingham, the Wayside Family Resource Center is also a really great option for families. Again, they kind of can provide a wide range of information and resources to families. And then, the pediatrician is always a great place to go to if you have concerns about your child and their development or behavior.
Do you have any advice for parents on, I know that we've been focusing a lot on supports that we put into schools and ways that the schools are trying to support families. Do you have any specific advice for parents on how they can support their children at home?
A lot of that, of course, is going to depend on the individual situation, but kind of in general, one thing I recommend is kind of be talking to your kid about school and about how they're feeling and kind of model those conversations about emotions for your kids so that they know that that's an okay topic to talk to you about. And if they have challenges, then you're a person they can come to talk about that. And then the other thing is just kind of that whole, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help someone else. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well, because you're not going to be able to best support your child if your needs aren't getting met either.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kayla. We really appreciate it. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with the community that we maybe didn't cover, but I think you covered a lot. So we think it's great to have you with Marlborough Public Schools, you and Raphael, and it's a great service that you're providing to families. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. Thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of Superintendent's Corner. We hope it went better than our first episode, and we are committed to improving, and we'll see you next month.